SportsRadioDetroit.com.
Let's go out and leave it all on the field. It's going to start with us. We got to make plays in order for us to win. All you got to do is do your assignment, nothing more. Let's go. Playmakers on 3. 1, 2, 3, playmaker.
Matthew leans in, he's got it, wants to throw. Pressure comes up the screen, got it for Riddick. Riddick to 15, Riddick 10, Riddick 5, Riddick end zone! Touchdown, Detroit Lions! He's to Abdullah, right side, got a hole. Abdullah 20, Abdullah 10, shakes the man at the 8, and dances into the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions! The action fake, he's gonna throw. Rhodes does, it is picked off by Lions. Coming back the other way off the deflection. Glover Quinn, back to the house. Touchdown, Detroit Lions! 38 seconds left. Bradford's got it on third down. Sets and throws. It is intercepted. Darius Slay's got it at the 30. Slay inside the 25. Matthews got it. Looks right. Throws. Caught. Golden Tate. End zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Barkley takes the snap. Back to pass. Looks. Rolling. Hit. Still alive. Now he's not. Going down. Sack. Back outside the 50-yard line. Kerry Hyder's got it. Backing up, looking for somewhere to go. Stafford's going to tuck it and run. Stafford at the 5, 3, 2, 1, end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Oh, Matthew took it home.
Lions, SRD on SportsRadioDetroit.com.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Lions SRD on SportsRadioDetroit.com. I'm Ben Salagi, joined with Marty Stafford, and well, the Lions had a preseason game. It was the dress rehearsal, if you want to call it that. I mean, it was very similar last year to when the Lions played the Ravens, and it was an undressed rehearsal because the Lions looked bad in that game. They looked bad again for a half against the defending Super Bowl champions, and if you want to be a half-glass full type of person, it's because they were facing the Super Bowl defending champions and the odds-on favorite to win it this year. And if you're not a glass half full kind of person, it's just because, well, same old Lions. Lions suck. So we'll get into that. We'll get into that game. We'll talk about a couple of players that have been cut and waived. And, of course, probably the biggest news, obviously, is Matthew Stafford. The contract is done. We predicted here on Sports Radio Detroit it was going to get done before the start of training camp. Instead, it took up until the fourth preseason game. Either way, both parties wanted to get it done before the regular season. So, yeah, it's done. Matthew Stafford signed, sealed, delivered 6 more years of Captain Comeback, if you even want to call him that, or Gunslinger's probably more appropriate. Marty? Third preseason game looked pretty awful. What were your thoughts about it?
It pretty much went exactly how I thought it was going to go. You know, you're not going to – I don't care who you are. You're not going to go out there on the field with Tom Brady and have him just not decimate you. That's just the way Tom Brady is. So I was more interested in seeing what the second half guys were going to do. Just for the sheer fact that their starters are pretty much, set in stone for the most part. At least I feel like it. On offense, and some of the defense are going to be, moving pieces. But, Brady went out and did Tom Brady. People were, I saw people all over the internet just going completely ballistic that the Lions looked so bad. Well, yeah, they did, but let's give the devil his due. I mean, the Patriots are the Patriots. They're the world champions for a reason. This is what they do. We knew this was going to happen, and it's not like the result matters. Now they can go back and they can fix what needs to be fixed. Well, hopefully they can fix what needs to be fixed.
Yeah, I mean, that's you put it exactly right. While the Lions looked bad, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Granted, it looks disconcerting, especially but here's the thing, and I think it looks a lot worse than it was because the week before, the Lions played a terrible team in the Jets. I mean, you would think it was hyperbole that the Jets are going to go 0-16. If you watched 2 weeks ago in the preseason, that is very, very realistic of a possibility. The Jets look awful, and I don't know if anyone can save that team. I mean, that team looked really, really bad. And then on the flip side of that, the following week, you have the well-oiled machine of the Patriots that have been good since, 2003? So we're talking a good, solid 14, 15-year run. And granted, that's why you poached someone from their front office to run your team. I mean, it's just one of the things that you have to look at both sides. I don't think it was that bad. I don't think it was that great. I mean, it definitely helped that the Lions gave the Patriots first string the ball immediately after Golden Tate fumbled. And it's something that we've seen consistently, that the only thing consistent about these wide receivers is that they don't hold on to the football. They either drop the football, they fumble the football. And to me, that's disconcerting. What about for you, Marty?
Yeah, it is. And we all say that, the good wide receivers will make the great wide receivers will make all the catches. Well, we don't have great receivers. We have good receivers. We have guys that could potentially be great if you look at their skill set, but for whatever reason, they don't get the pieces to match up right. They might go out there and the skill set might be on fire, but then the quarterback's playing bad, or the quarterback's having a great game and the guys can't catch the ball. Something always seems to be going on with the receiving game. And it hits them. It hits them in the hands, and it's just something's always going on with that receiving game. And it doesn't matter who you have out there. It doesn't matter if they trot Calvin Johnson out there, Marvin Jones, Golden Tate. If it's hitting them in the hands, yeah, they're probably not going to catch it with the way this Lions team goes at times.
Yeah, that's true. One question that we actually talked about on the SRD Road Show this past Saturday, which you can catch every Saturday except this upcoming one because we're taking Labor Day off, but Saturdays at crbradio.com if you want to listen to it live from 9 to 11, or if you want to listen to it later, you can go to sportsradiodetroit.com, listen to it whenever you want. But one of the questions I raised, because it's something that I feel is important, because it's something that's not talked about anymore, and I want to get your opinion of it, Marty, since you're obviously on this show, and this show is centered around the Detroit Lions. Kenny Golladay, week 1 looked fantastic. And before week 1, you had multiple practice reports, tweets from beat reporters about all these great plays Kenny Golladay was making. Well, Golladay was targeted 3 times against the Patriots. He only caught one of those on a quick out route for 2 yards. And I don't think he really did much against the Jets. And we haven't really heard much from Golladay, whether it's one of the things that, there hasn't been tweets, which I know now media availability has kind of gone down a little bit. So you're not seeing all of the things that you're seeing or that you're used to seeing in training camp. But Golladay against the Jets even had 1 catch on 1 target for 6 yards. My question that I posed to the group on the SRD Roadshow was, are you curious about the lack of coverage, and is there concern with that? Is there any level of concern with that curiosity? For me, it is a little bit, because obviously taking week 1 by storm, everyone was talking about Golladay, and now he's basically disappeared. He's off the radar. You hear one little thing that they're kind of working him with the 1s, but he's still working with the 2s. Is there any level of concern on your end, Marty, or are you just thinking the Lions already know what they have in this guy? If this goes into the season, then you be concerned. What are your thoughts?
I think they kind of know what they have in him, because he did a little bit of everything in week 1. He did a little bit of everything in training camp. He did have that 1 catch against the Jets, but I think that looked like it was more design than anything else, because it was kind of like he dominated so much in week 1. They wanted to see what other guys could do. So I as far as that goes, I think it's by design, but I also kind of think it's a little weird that he's been a ghost.
Right.
Like you don't have a player that you're super, super high on and then do nothing with him. Like it's super, super weird. So they're either game planning and just not using it in the preseason games. I mean, and let's face it, teams do that. Teams do it all the time. Like when Moss was in New England, for example, he didn't play much in the preseason. He went out, did a couple snaps, and that was that because they weren't going to show you their whole. They weren't going to open up the pantry door and let you raid the cupboard. They weren't going to let you see what's going on. So I mean, it could be by design, but I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen his name at all, other than one catch, 6 yards. So
right.
I haven't seen his name. It's just to me, it's weird. It's just weird.
Yeah, I mean, a total over the last 2 weeks, he's been targeted 4 times, has 2 catches for 8 yards. And the week before, we obviously know he had 2 touchdowns, multiple catches, and looked good. I mean, that's why, at least for me, it's weird. Like, because, I mean, you bring up Randy Moss. Randy Moss earned that, benefit of the doubt, right, when he was with the Patriots. By the time he was there, known quantity, you knew what you were getting. He was a known veteran by then. I mean, we're still talking about a first-year wide receiver where that's why the curiosity level for me is rising, because you have other guys across the league that still are not being hidden in any way, shape, or form. They're still being targeted. They're still running that route tree. So to me, it's a little curious. And the funny thing is, though, with it, kind of going back to Bob Quinn and the Patriots connection, you're starting to see kind of the Patriot mentality, at least from the front office standpoint, bleed over into what, all the secrecy. But I don't think that bleeds into the coaching staff necessarily. Some may say it does. Others may say it doesn't. I haven't really seen that because even when Martin Mayhew was the general manager, Jim Caldwell was the same, tight-lipped individual that he is now. So, I mean, that's why, at least for me, I wanted to ask you that question, because I'm very, very curious if Galladay was, if all the hype was real, if it's not real, if it's going to, transition into the regular season or not. That's where I'm not panicking. Like I said, I'm curious. I'm curious as to why we haven't heard of this guy the last 2 weeks. And granted, on Thursday against the Bills on the road, which, by the way, I'm excited about because we'll finally see the blue pants. I mean, I don't know about you, but that's the only reason why to tune into that game for me, is that you'll finally see the road uniform. But, yeah, I mean, outside of, the first week, we haven't heard or seen from Galladay in months. You almost want to put his face on a milk carton. Other faces that are going on a milk carton, maybe a wanted poster. Keyshawn Martin, cut. Tim Wright got cut. And a few days ago, Cyrus Kouangio, who was signed after Taylor Decker suffered his shoulder injury, he was cut. So basically, first, starting with Robinson, that basically the Lions are going to stick with Greg Robinson at left tackle. He showed pretty good in week 1 in Indy. Didn't show really any drop back. If anything, he showed he was the exact same against the Jets, if maybe not the same, a little bit better. But again, it's against the Jets. The Jets are not good. You can't get any barometer with the Jets. And then, with the Patriots, he still didn't look bad. So it's something that is interesting that this guy that's labeled as a bust maybe not be a bust. Maybe Jeff Schwartz was right when he was talking about him, saying that, getting Greg Robinson into this scheme is actually going to help him reach his ceiling. But what were your thoughts when you saw Cyrus Kouangio was cut? I mean, to me, it was a little surprising, only because Corey Robinson has been on the PUP list, and he's someone that they need. So it caught me off guard in that regard. But what were your thoughts on it, Marty, when you heard the news?
Similar to yours, but then I was kind of thinking, well, obviously they're comfortable with Greg Robinson because he's looked pretty good. Matter of fact, I should say he's looked really good. There was a play against the Patriots. I forget who the pass rusher was, where the play kind of broke down, and Abdullah was run up along the sidelines. I want to say it was like a screen pass or something, and Robinson took out 2 dudes, just flatlined the pass rusher, and then he took out the linebacker as well. Like, Like, he looked like a first-round pick. So clearly they're comfortable with him. So, I mean, I was kind of surprised. But then, it's kind of like, okay, well, does that mean Robinson – or not Robinson. Who's the guy you just said, Ben?
Yeah, Corey Robinson.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Is Corey Robinson due to come back soon? Are they going to use Dahl all over the field? It was kind of questioning the timing of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if they're comfortable with what they have, then I have no problem with it because Robinson's looked really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, he's looked better. I mean, he's looked better than at least advertised from the Rams. So, it's something that it's encouraging. That the front office is comfortable with what they've seen so far, and maybe this is better news for Taylor Decker's recovery. He may be more on the mend than we think. Granted, he was supposed to be out 4 to 6 weeks, and I think he should be just redshirted the entire year because it's an important player and a very dangerous injury that if it doesn't heal right, you're screwed because shoulders and hips and knees are basically death traps in any sport. But, I mean, if anything, that news is encouraging, and it was interesting that because the Lions need help at tight end, and we haven't seen Eric Ebron play yet, and so it was interesting to see that Tim White was cut. Now, a lot of people are going to be like, well, interesting, maybe not. You still have Michael Roberts, who's been okay, but you have Cole Wick, who got injured against the Patriots, but they say he should be fine by the start of the season. You still have Brandon Fells, who you signed in the offseason as well. You don't have a lot of depth at tight end. I mean, out of those 3 guys, that's pretty much it. What were your thoughts there? Do you think that they maybe should have? I mean, I know we're playing second guessing here with Lions roster decisions, but at least that one it seemed like a little bit weird, unless the Lions are going to carry 5 to maybe 6 wide receivers and just stick with the 3 tight ends that they have.
It didn't seem weird to me. I mean, Tim Wright's the kind of guy who bounces around the league. He'll make a roster, he'll last on it for a week, and then he gets cut. I mean, to me, it wasn't surprising at all. It was more surprising they signed him than anything else because I believe they also signed him at a point last year, didn't they?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, to me, it wasn't surprising that he was released. Again, I didn't get to see too much of the game, so I didn't know Wick had gotten hurt. But if they're comfortable with Wick coming back at the beginning of the season, I'm okay with. To be honest with you, and this is what I would do, I would have Michael Roberts play the entire 4th game, every offensive play, unless he runs for 70 yards and needs a breather. But otherwise, I'd have him play as much as possible because I don't want to say he looks lost because he just looks like he's not quite ready yet. And I think if you give him that 4th preseason game to get the snaps down, to get his timing with Stafford down, to learn the routes and so on, I think that just helps out more. I don't see any downside to that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Michael Roberts looks uncomfortable. I mean, I think that is the best way to put it. I mean, the good news is, though, after week 1, he's been a little bit better with the ball security issues, so he is improving. But you can tell that he's thinking as he's on the field. He's not playing with a reaction. He's playing with a thinking man's reaction. Like, okay, I need to do this, so I'm going to go out and do that. He's not just okay. I need to run an out route. Just going to run that out route if I have to cut it off soon or round it out and go elongate it a little bit to get past a linebacker. I can do that. No, he's thinking, okay, an out route is 6 steps. Okay, after the 6th step, I plant and I cut. So that's what I'm going to do. And then like the ball snapped, and then you see him like counting off the steps. That's what he's playing like right now. And in all fairness, he's still contributing when he's been on the field. But yeah, I think playing him in the 4th preseason game will just be beneficial to him, to no end. And it's something that, again, with Wick, him, Fells, and Ebron, you do have your 4 tight ends there, but again, we don't know how healthy Ebron is. All we see Ebron doing is just running. He hasn't played in a game. We don't know how healthy he is. And we hear he's going to be ready for week 1. Same thing with Ziggy Ansah, which was mentioned on Tuesday. But again, these are predictions. They're not set in stone. They're not facts. So, I mean, you hope that these guys are ready, but again, you don't know. So as of right now, you do. You only have those 3 tight ends, and it is a little concerning. But when Keyshawn Martin got cut, I think this was the easiest cut the Lions could have made. It was a guy they were going to clearly kick the tires on. He's only really been a return specialist. Even when he was in Houston, they rarely used him as a wide receiver. And basically the return position seems to be pretty much almost settled. I mean, Agnew has been used as a punt returner, which Keyshawn Martin basically was used as a punt returner primarily. So, and you still have other guys like Dwayne Washington who can do kickoff returns if you really need them to return kicks. So, I mean, Martin was really, really cuttable because one guy in particular, a guy, Marty, again, you were excited about this, signing that seemed like a throwaway signing, but every single preseason game we've seen maybe it's not a throwaway signing. Jared Abadaris is making a strong case to stay on this team. He's a guy who's really putting the screws to Jace Billingsley, a guy that we didn't really know much of last year. And granted, we don't really know the known quantity of Jared Abadaris because he's been injured when he was with the Packers. But these two guys are putting on a heck of a battle, and it's really tough to maybe cut both of these guys.
Yeah, it really is because Billingsley, you can also, if you keep him, you can also put him on as a kick and punt returner.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really see Abadaris fitting that mold, which I'm okay with. Don't get me wrong. I'm okay with that. I like the fact that Abadaris, for the most part, he's shorthanded. He's more quick than fast, but he's a smart route runner. Like people are going to hate me for saying this because this is a Lions podcast, but he's the prototypical Packers wide receiver. He's smart, he's crisp, and he doesn't make many mistakes. The reason he was expendable, he was from Green Bay, he was injured, and they have 9 bazillion receivers in Green Bay that can play his role. So that's why Abadaris was expendable. And if you remember, I believe it was the one of the shows we did in the offseason, I was really, really excited they signed him specifically for that reason. I would love to see Abadaris contribute for this offense because he's a guy who can kind of, you know what, I've won a championship. I've played in a Super Bowl. I can show you guys, I can help you guys calm down, and he can be a leader. That's something Golden Tate can't offer. That's something Kenny Golladay can't offer, and neither can Marvin Jones. So, I mean, people, I'm sure people are rolling their eyes, the leadership quota, whatever. To me, that's a bigger deal than people believe. Because let's say the Lions make it deep in the playoffs this year, and I'm not saying they will. Let's say they do. You're going to look to guys like Abadaris, guys who have been there, who can kind of say, okay, guys, here's what's coming. This is what we need to do. Kind of help right the ship. So I think that Abadaris was a brilliant signing, and I'm having a lot of fun watching the highlights between Billingsley and Abadaris battle for that, I don't know, I guess 4th or 5th spot, because who knows what TJ Jones is going to do.
Well, yeah, I mean, plus, TJ Jones is injured right now. I mean, he's not fully healthy, but even if Jones is healthy, again, you have Golladay, Marvin Jones, Golden Tate, TJ Jones, Billingsley, and Abadaris. Now, we thought maybe the Lions would go 4, maybe 5 wide receivers. Now, maybe they go 6. You don't know. I mean, it's something that it's going to be interesting to see what they do on Saturday, because that's when you have to go from 90 to 53. You don't get that cut in between the 3rd and 4th preseason game where you go from 90 to 75, then 75 to 53. So we don't know exactly where the Lions are necessarily leaning, but it's something that, again, if you want to stash a guy, you can stash a guy like Billingsley, on your practice squad. Now, I've mentioned that before. I think that is the move that makes sense. Because it's something that you do need to see what you have in TJ Jones. And then at some point later on in the year, same thing like they did with what the Lions did with Jake Rudock, if someone's trying to make a waiver claim on him, if you have a roster spot available, you can bring up Billingsley onto the main roster. So and that's only if the Lions decide to take 5 wide receivers instead of 6 with them, after Saturday, which we will get into, probably on next week's podcast. But it's something it's interesting because when you see a move like that and you're seeing the battles the way that they've played out, those two guys are going at it tough. I mean, it's been a pleasant surprise to see Billingsley get better, showing he just wasn't a flash in the pan and that he maybe has some staying power. And that Abadaris, has rebounded from his injuries. I mean, both of them have redeeming qualities there. So that has been a pleasant surprise to watch, position with the position battles. And it's something, Marty, before we get into Matthew Stafford really quickly, there were 7 teams that put a claim on Coney Ealy, who the Patriots decided to just waive. They're like, you know what? We don't need him. And everyone thought after the Patriots came to town, maybe the Lions would kick the tires on him. Well, Arizona wanted to kick the tires on him. Washington wanted to kick the tires on him. So did Tampa Bay, Dallas, the Jets, who did get him, and so did the New York Giants. They all put claims on this guy. And it's going to be his 3rd team in 3 years. And he's a guy who's been productive when he was with Carolina. I mean, he did get a couple of fumble recoveries. He did sack the quarterback. He showed the ability to rush. But it begs the question, because the Lions still need help at defensive end, what are the Lions going to do? Kerry Hyder, like we said, is not coming back. He's gone for the year. You don't know if Ziggy Ansah is going to be back at the start of the year, even though Bob Quinn and everyone says he is. At least the way the Lions are behaving, it looks like they're just going to solve this thing in-house and that they're not going to necessarily sign a guy unless they have to. How are you reading that situation, Marty? Because I know you wanted the Lions to kick the tires on Ealy because they did need a pass rusher, and he was still younger, and he was a guy that would have filled a need.
I still feel here's why I wanted him to kick the tires. We all know I'm a huge Anthony Zettel guy, but he's not a pass rusher. Don't let him tackle on a tree fool you. He's not a pass rusher. He's a run-stuffing defensive end who can get to the quarterback. I'm not saying he can't, but that's not his specialty. He's a run-stuffing defensive end. And Ziggy Ansah, he's been hurt, and we don't know how he's going to go. Devin Taylor, I mean, it's just we don't really have a good pass rush. You can't rely on our outside linebackers. So I was just hoping maybe they would kick the tires on them, and they decided not to, and that's fine. I mean, whatever. But like you said, it seems like they're going to try and solve this in-house, and losing Kerry Hyder, that was like the worst situation this defensive line could have, because at least if you have Hyder, you have someone on the side there who can generate a pass rush while the other guys kind of shut down the other offensive lineman. So you can at least get Kerry Hyder broken free and have him rush. Now you don't have that option because none of the defensive tackles are pass rushers. Zettel's not a pass rusher. Ansah is, but he's always beat up a little bit. So, I mean, it's just we don't know what they're going to do. So I was hoping they'd take a look at them, but, they decided not to. And there's a reason that we don't see. There's something there that we don't know, we weren't privy to, and that's fine. There's something we don't know, and that's good enough for me. If they decided not to kick the tires on them, there's something they didn't like, that's fine. I was just hoping we would do something because I'm not comfortable with our pass rush at all.
Yeah, I mean, Washington seemed, to be a guy who could generate a pass rush. I mean, he's a bigger defensive end. But it's something that, it's just something. I mean, I agree that the Lions need help with their pass rush, but I don't think it's a dire need. Again, I think it's something that they can solve in-house. And we've seen the past couple of years, guys like Kerry Hyder, guys that we had no idea existed, basically come in and become serviceable pass rushers. I mean, it's not unheard of for the Lions to unearth someone. They've done it, I think, the last 40 years now. So it's something that that helps to their advantage. So I mean, we'll see. I mean, chances are maybe the Lions still go after a guy like, Dwight Freeney, who wants to still, earn a quick paycheck after week 3 or something like that. There's still, that ability to go out and get someone. It's just surprising that it hasn't happened yet. But usually when you go after those veterans anyways, you can get them after, the second or third week because they're NFL veterans. To them, they already know, how to quickly get adjusted in camp, and it's an easier transition process. But the news of the day, last topic of the day, Matthew Stafford is rich. He has a record $135 million deal for 5 years, and he has a signing bonus. That is a $50 million signing bonus, and the extension actually frees up $5 million in cap space. So it's something that this obviously, if you listen to sports radio around the area, if you are on social media around the area, you want to see how fans are reacting to this. You would have thought the Lions went out back and shot Old Yeller. You would have thought the Lions threw Lassie down the well and went to get Timmy and laughed in his face. You would think Bob Quinn and the Lions were some diabolical 1920s, 1930s guy who has a damsel in distress tied up and laying them gently on railroad tracks as a train's about to come by. I mean, it is it's insane, at least at some point, for some of these reactions. I mean, there was a reaction, Marty, that was on sports radio today where someone was like, he doesn't even deserve that money. And matter of fact, if I was offered a raise at work that I didn't feel I deserved, I would give it right back. And I heard that, and I almost crashed my car. I'll be honest. Because there's no way anyone in their right mind would turn away a raise if someone at your job said, hey, you know what? I like what you're doing. Here's an extra $2,000 at the end of the year. I mean, that's how insane people are reacting. Now, I'm not saying you can't be fair to the Lions or Matthew Stafford and question the extension, but when you start going along those lines where you're trying to compare yourself, to an NFL player earning millions upon millions of dollars and then equating that to yourself and saying, well, if I didn't think I did a good job, I would hand in that bonus check that I would have gotten. Yeah, right. Your wife would kill you. Your kids would disown you and say, I don't want to be a part of your family. Why? Because you're an idiot. I mean, Marty, what were your thoughts? We knew this was going to happen. Granted, the Lions wanted to get this done before the start of the regular season. So did Matthew Stafford. He didn't want it to be a distraction. He said since day one, and I mean day one, back when the draft happened in 2009, that he wanted to come to Detroit and turn Detroit around. What are your initial thoughts on this extension? Do you like it? Do you wish the Lions didn't extend them? What are your thoughts?
Well, of course I like it. I mean, let's face it. The curse of Bobby Lane was broken by who? Matt Stafford. He's the guy he's the guy. This team is going to go as he goes. I don't care what anybody says. Yes, the running game is important, and that needs to change and improve. Absolutely. But this team's not a running team anymore. This isn't Barry Sanders' Lions. This is Matt Stafford's line. This is the best quarterback we've had in 20, 30 years.
Close to it. Yeah, close to it.
So I don't understand. I don't understand the consternation. Does he make big bonehead plays? Yeah, absolutely he does. That's what he has to do at times because he can't rely on the running game. And, he's human. He's going to make mistakes. I'd rather have him there. I'd rather have the problem of having Matt Stafford for another 6 years than to have the Jets quarterback problem they're having. And we all know that I'm a Hackenberg guy. We know. But still,
Right.
I'd much rather have this problem, quote unquote problem, than what they're having in New York. I think the amount of money is ridiculous. Like, oh my God. No, and I understand the quarterback market is what it is. They're saying when guys like Jameis Winston and Mariota come up for their next contract, they're saying upwards of $30 million for those guys for new contracts.
Mm-hmm.
These contracts are getting out of hand, just absolutely ridiculous. And you know what? You know who's to blame for it? we are because
Well,
we
yeah.
feed right into it.
I mean, we do. I mean, let's be honest. The TV money that's coming into the league is $24 billion. And, I mean, that's coming from people buying tickets to games, going to games. That's TV money for just the rights to have the games on TV. That's advertising revenue thrown in. I mean, there's a lot of money to be, tossed around here. And it's something, too, again, Matthew Stafford, and a lot of people, while this money is ridiculous, he is giving the Lions a hometown discount because he frees up $5.5 million for this year, which the Lions already had, I think, $5 million to spend for. No, I think it was $3 or $4 million to spend before that. So guess what? If you still needed to sign somebody, you could. It's something that helps. Here's another thing that's really interesting. Bill Shea, who works for Cranes Detroit, a local business publication here around here, Marty. I know that you probably did not know that because you're in Pittsburgh. Here's the insane thing about all of this. Stafford's $50 million bonus will get paid by February. His signing bonus will already be done, covered, signed, sealed, delivered in the trust fund of his two kids by February. This is the same Lions organization that only, 3, maybe 4 years ago was struggling to find a way to sign, players like Ndamukong Suh and Matthew Stafford because there wasn't enough money to go around. But yet now the organization can pay off a major signing bonus like this in 6 months. I mean, that's kind of insane when you think about it.
Yeah, you're right. It is. I mean, it kind of makes you think: did they want to pay Ndamukong Suh the money he wanted?
That's true.
There's a lot of variables there. I mean, let's face it. Ndamukong Suh, since he went to Miami, has not been Ndamukong Suh. I don't care what anybody said. He hasn't been the same player. I don't know if it's because he's not as hungry as he was when he was in Detroit. Because when he was in Detroit, he was trying to earn that money, and now that he's got it in Miami, he's kind of like, whatever. I mean, I've watched the guy play. It's clearly not the same player. He still does the same dirty tricks, which is fine by me because I get a kick out of it. I think it's funny. But he's not the same player. He doesn't have that same ferocity to it. It's just, I don't know. It is weird to see that they're going to have that thing paid in 6 months. So.
I was going to say, when I read that, I almost fell out of my chair because that is un-Lions-like. Another thing that was interesting, and this is just weird stats that I only find interesting with this, is that Matthew Stafford is taking less percentage against the cap than Joe Flacco's deal in 2013. So it's something you look at that too, is that, while Stafford, yes, is getting paid, and whether you think he's deserving or not, he's still helping the team out. He's still making sure that, because again, we've talked about this before. We did our signing carousel. We didn't think Glover Quinn would get an extension. Well, he did. Ziggy Ansah is a guy who's waiting for his extension if he gets one, whether he's 30, 28, 29, whatever. He's still looking for his second contract. Maybe the Lions can give that to him if he's healthy. So, I mean, that's helping him. But one thing that a lot of people are saying is, how can you give a guy this much money? And I'm going to throw a couple of numbers at you. I want you to digest the numbers, and I want you to give me your honest opinion about them. 5-46 against winning teams. When you hear that, what is the first thing that pops into your head?
It's not just one guy on the team. I mean, it's the defense has to make their plays.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about earlier, receivers have to stop dropping the ball. We have to get a running game. It's not. I mean, yeah, okay, fine. I'm making, you want to call it making excuses, whatever. Those are reasons. I mean, one guy doesn't make the team. So I mean, there's 5-46. That's abysmal. I mean, that is. It's just abysmal. But guess what? Those good teams, they're exploiting the weaknesses of the Lions.
Right.
They're the ones making defenses look silly. I mean, my God, Case Keenum last year, for example. Remember what he did to the Lions defense last year?
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, somehow Stafford got the blame for that, well, if Stafford would have done this better, that would have. Which I don't understand. How is it Stafford's fault when linebackers can't cover tight ends? I don't get it, Ben. I just don't get it. But the first thing that popped in my mind was he's not the only guy on the team. He's just not.
Right. Well, I'm with you there. I mean, a lot of people, when they throw out that number is the biggest red herring in the whole world because I can give you a number that trumps that. And Matthew Stafford was nowhere to be found when I give up this number. One playoff win in 50-some-odd years. That's a reflection of the organization when you hear a 5-46 record. That's not yes, you can tie that to when Stafford got here, but when you think about it, that just goes to show how bad the Lions were. Stafford has been to the playoffs more as a Lions quarterback than basically like the last 10 guys before him. Let's be honest. The names of Lions quarterbacks before Matthew Stafford isn't great. John Kitna, not great. Joey Harrington, not great. Mike McMahon, are you kidding me? Dan Orlovsky, get out of here. Dante Culpepper, not Miami Dolphins Dante Culpepper, not even Minnesota Vikings Dante Culpepper, garbage Dante Culpepper. Come on. I mean, you can just
Jeff
look.
Garcia.
Exactly. Thank you. Another guy out there. And we're not talking about San Francisco 49er Jeff Garcia. I mean, you throw out these quarterbacks, you look at the list. The only one good quarterback that you can look at before Stafford got here was Charlie Batch. I mean, outside of that, all the quarterbacks have been garbage. I mean, I don't know why people have this whole notion and idea that Stafford is this terrible martyr that you can just get away from. This guy is a top 10 quarterback in the league, and you just want to throw him away like he's nothing. That kind of irritates me. Another thing that irritates me, when people say no playoff wins. Now, whether you want to admit in 2014 that the Lions got screwed by the officials and the Dallas Cowboys, where the Lions should have won that game, whatever, even tossing that aside. Again, it's something that the Lions have gotten to the playoffs more often with Matthew Stafford than not. You want to look at another quarterback who got a major deal just a few weeks ago? If you want to throw out playoff numbers, Derek Carr never appeared in the playoff game. Why? Because he got injured. But yet he was the highest paid quarterback of an up-and-coming Raiders team, a guy that a lot of people like around here, which we're going to get into in a second. And you know what? Screw it. We'll talk about it now. People wanted to trade Matt Stafford so that you can get Kirk Cousins. And the only reason why people like Kirk Cousins, as you probably just dropped your phone, Marty, which I don't blame you, Kirk Cousins people only like because he went to Michigan State, for Christ's sakes. Kirk Cousins is not better than Matthew Stafford at all. And it's something that he hasn't won a playoff game. So, I mean, it's something that you look at all these people that everyone wants to use as a scapegoat. I mean, hell, it's the Drew Stanton love fest all over again with Jake Rudock, because Jake Rudock destroys the Jets, and granted, yes, helped against the second and third string last week with the Patriots for the Lions to get back into that game. But he's not ready to be a starter. People just, and this is fan logic that I don't get. They see college where Jake Rudock went to and round he went into and think, hey, he's Tom Brady reincarnate. Are you kidding me? Just because he went to Michigan, which, by the way, he went to Michigan because he lost his starting job to Bullard or Bethard in Iowa. That's why he went to Michigan. It wasn't because he didn't he went to Michigan out of necessity because Michigan needed a quarterback, and he lost his job in Iowa. He's not at that point, he wasn't a great quarterback because, again, he lost his job at Iowa. Tom Brady, same thing. When he was at Michigan, a lot of people liked Drew Henson a lot more than Tom Brady, even though Tom Brady was one of two quarterbacks in Michigan's BCS era to win a BCS game. I mean, all of this revisionist history just irritates and just grates at me because a lot of people want to use these false equivalents of why they shouldn't sign Matthew Stafford. Well, here's a couple of reasons, and I don't like the guy all that much. I just respect his toughness, but Stafford's entering his 9th season averaging 278 passing yards per game which is the most through a player's first 8 seasons in NFL history. Stafford is a guy who this past year was winning games for the Lions that the Lions had no business winning with 8 comeback wins. I mean, come on. What else does this guy need to do? Does he need to walk on water for people to think in this town that he's earned that money? I mean, I don't know. Maybe because, I don't think like a fan anymore. I really don't. Ever since I became a journalist, I've kind of stopped thinking like a fan. Maybe, Marty, you can help me out with this. I don't know. What do you think Matthew Stafford has to do to finally get some semblance of logic from people and maybe garnishing some respect?
You want the honest to God truth?
Yeah, I do.
He's going to have to win a Super Bowl.
Oh my God.
Period. Yeah, because this fan base, and it's not just in Detroit, Ben, because it's here in Pittsburgh too. Ben Roethlisberger can go out there and throw 7 touchdowns, but he'll throw a pick in garbage time, and people here in Pittsburgh will want Roethlisberger benched because that flipping idiot just threw an interception. Okay, come on, this is ridiculous. Fans get stupid at times. I'm one of them. I do it too, but not to that regard. Not to that regard.
Right.
It's just that's what it's going to take. And even then, you use the walk on water metaphor, people would look at that and go, yeah, you know what? That's probably a frozen lake. So I mean, it's just there. I don't think he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. And you know what? I think he's okay with that because he's getting paid a lot more money in a week than most of us will ever see in our lifetime.
I mean, that's true.
Fine.
That's true.
So, I mean, it's just I don't think there's anything he can do. This fan base, there's no gray area with Stafford. You either love him or you hate him, and it seems like for whatever reason, a lot of the Lions quote unquote fans hate him, and I don't get it.
Well, I mean, again, that's the thing that I don't get, especially when you look at last year. This team last year was at best a 5 or 6 win team, and he dragged them into the playoffs. I mean, to me, that just shows enough that he's worth keeping around. Now, again, I'm not his biggest fan. You look in, this even this preseason, he's making throws where you're just thinking to yourself, what the heck is going on? I mean, even against the Patriots, he rushed a ball where he clearly should have tucked it and maybe got a couple of yards. He's thrown low and he's thrown high to Marvin Jones, which has one almost caused an interception. The first one in week 1 was an interception. So it's one of the things, though, too, you have to look at how Matthew Stafford has even gotten better under Jim Bob Cooter, which, again, if Jim Bob Cooter is in line to be, the next head coach of the Lions, or even if it's Josh McDaniels or whoever, this guy's probably going to be retained because Matthew Stafford's numbers have improved tremendously under Jim Bob Cooter. I mean, JBC has really helped this guy, and Stafford's even admitted for the first time in his career that he decided to work with a quarterback guru to learn how to throw touch on his throws. Because before, and you see it when he's in trouble, he just relies on his fastball. That's all he does. He wants to zip it in there and get it out of his hand as quickly as possible. And when you have a guy that's 300 pounds barreling down on you, you can't blame him. But it's something that, you look at what this guy's done. And I'm not saying by any means this guy's perfect. I'm not even saying he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And yes, you can throw out names, Marty, like you did. Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, other guys that are going to get paid more than him. And you can maybe even argue could be better than this guy. I mean, it's something, too, that having a guy who's a top 10 quarterback in this league, it's rare. You look at what, as you said, the Jets are going through. The Jets don't have a franchise guy, and they hope maybe Sam Darnold is going to come out in the draft. They're hoping that he will, and Darnold's even been on record saying, I don't know if I'm going to go to the draft. I might, stay another year here at USC. Josh Rosen at UCLA, I mean, he's okay. He's not awesome. You have Allen out in Wyoming, who, again, he's in Wyoming. He could be okay, but I don't get why people are always enamored with, the next best thing when you have something pretty good going on right now. And here's something else I think people are not giving a lot of respect and credit to. And it's something, Marty, you and I have talked about on this podcast. And I know this is probably the first time in a while anyone's heard me this animated about the Lions. But here's the thing. Bob Quinn, in his second year, has made this team a hell of a lot better. If Bob Quinn gets to build this team for another 6 years around Matt Stafford, you're going to sit here and tell me straight-faced that the team's not going to get better? I mean, he alone repaired the right side of the line, which has been a revolving door for the past 3 seasons. He did it in one off season. And you can see where that's gotten better just in this preseason. Ricky Wagner and TJ Lang are really going to help Matt Stafford. And we said this right when they got signed, before training camp. We've never seen Matt Stafford play with a clean pocket and with time to throw. And if he does get that this year and next year, because Lang's only signed for 2 years, you don't know what the potential could be. Maybe he does further limit his interceptions. Maybe he makes better decisions. Maybe the Lions win a division. You never know. The sky is the limit, because so far Bob Quinn's earned a hell of a lot of trust. With it, I mean, his first draft is still paying off, and other NFL GMs want Jake Rudock. I mean, that in itself shows that he's not an idiot. I mean, because again, if you want to use that logic, Jake Rudock being a 6th-round pick at Michigan, Rudock's gotten better. I mean, I'm not saying he's ready to start anywhere, but he's improved. Miles Killebrew got better. Someone, Marty, that you mentioned earlier, a guy I think who's had a really tremendous offseason is Zidell. Anthony Zidell has gotten markedly improved from first year to second year. I mean, he has. He's been given a lot more rope, so to speak, to play with, and he hasn't really made any mistakes. I mean, you're looking at all of these guys that Bob Quinn drafted last year. They're vital players. So, and it's something that, again, if you see what this team's going to be like in 2 years with Bob Quinn making all these decisions, and you have a guy who's arguably a top 10 quarterback, even if your opinion of him is top 15 or worse, maybe Stafford actually starts earning his money. And if he does, that can't be a bad thing. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy because, again, I know I have not gotten this animated on a Lions podcast in probably ever.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I was going to say, unless you listen to the wrestling fans, I don't get this animated about the Lions.
Yeah, you pretty much stay low key, which means you're passionate about it and you want to see, and you know that's good, that's great, that's why we do what we do.
Yeah, but again, I don't know. I just don't get this. I mean, this was something we all knew was happening too. I mean, that's the other thing I don't get. Bob Quinn said he came to Detroit because he liked Matthew Stafford as a quarterback. He said that when he got hired. You think that was lip service?
Apparently, people do.
I mean, that's the thing, man. I just don't get. I do not get this fan base at all. I really don't. Because also, if Kirk Cousins was really that good, why is he still playing on a bad Washington team? And still, I mean, it's smart because every year he makes an average of what the top 5 quarterbacks in the league makes. So he's basically making a lot of money on doing, really nothing. He doesn't really have to earn it. It's just, I don't know. It's just, I think I'd reached a breaking point. I think I really have. I think I've reached a breaking point with Matt Stafford and people in this town. Like I said, I'm not his biggest supporter. I'm not his biggest fan. But you at least have to cut the guy fair. But
you would think. I don't understand. Like you're saying. I mean, this guy gives this team the best chance to win, and all people want to do is talk up Jake Rudock.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get it.
I don't get it either. Anything else you want to hit on before I die of a stroke defending Matt Stafford?
I'll let you cool down for a second, and I just want to address the fan base. We talked about Kenny Golladay earlier. I've already seen people writing him off. Oh, what a wasted pick. He's not doing anything. Guys, calm down. It's the preseason. They're not opening up. If there's 60 plays in their playbook, they're running 15. Calm down. Everybody just settle down. Golladay will be fine. Tate will be fine. Everything will work out. Let's not, let's take a step off that ledge a little bit, guys. It's just a preseason. Galladay will be fine. You don't want to come out there and show everything you have in the preseason, because then everybody's gonna know your bag of tricks. You don't want to do it. So I think everything will work out and everything will come out in the wash and it'll be fine.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I mean, it's gonna be interesting. Live bullets start in a week. Like I said, against the Bills on Thursday, and then after that, you have Arizona week 1. And I mean, bullets are live. It's going to be interesting to see how the Lions do. We talked about, the start of their year. The first 8 games are not going to be easy, but if you are 4-4, the second half isn't that hard. So you never know what the Lions can do. And I mean, it's something, again, preseason doesn't really mean much. I mean, if anything, the 0-16 Lions have proven that. I mean, because they went 4-0 in the preseason, and they were awful. So,
yep.
I mean, that's why I liked what you said at the beginning of the podcast, Marty. I really do. It's something that the loss to New England literally means nothing. It means nothing. It means you lost the scrimmage. Oh, no. But it's something that it'll be interesting to see what the Lions do against the Bills. I think the Bills are better than the Colts. I think the Bills are definitely better than the Jets. So we'll see, what the Lions look like on Thursday, and we'll come back. We'll talk about it on this podcast. But until then, I'm Ben Salagi.
I'm Marty Stafford.
And we say goodnight.